Let's Science is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
3, 2, 1.
We live in a universe of scientific wonders.
Every day, scientists are inching towards breakthroughs which can change our lives.
We're playing our small part in sharing these wonders with you.
That's why today is a fine day for science.
So let's science.
So Caroline, we've got a couple of topics today. So you've got one and I've got one that I'm gonna try and work my way through. Hopefully it's a bit of fun. But Caroline, start us off and tell us about Dolly the Dinosaur, which sounds like a kid's show, by the way, reveals evidence of respiratory infections in sauropods. Over to you, Caroline.
Yeah, so have you felt a bit sniffly lately? Getting back into, no lockdowns and getting in touch with people again and getting all the colds and flus that are going around again.
Can I just say, I haven't been sick, right?
Yeah.
But just being around people, I feel like I'm sick, like I've got a cold. I don't know what's going on there. So I look at a person, a person walks 1 centimeter past my face and I'm like, oh, is that a scratchy throat? Or
Yes, that's what lockdown has done to us.
That's what it's done to us.
Affected us a bit. Yes, I bet there's some science behind that as well.
Broken psychology,
Yes. Yeah. So you get the sniffles sometimes. Did you know that poor dinosaurs living about 150 million years ago had the sniffles as well?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So an 18-meter long dinosaur named Dolly, who was a species related to a Diplodocus, she lived about 150 million years ago in southwestern Montana. Her fossilized skull and neck bones were found in 1990 and they've been studied, and it was found that 3 of her neck bones were analyzed and found to have like broccoli-shaped growth on her vertebrae. And she was estimated to about 15 to 20 years old when she died. So these broccoli-shaped growths were lesions, and they were on her 5th, 6th, and 7th vertebrae. And this is consistent with a chronic lung and upper respiratory condition. And the fact that there were lesions, it indicates that her respiratory illness was so severe it caused a secondary infection. Like when you get a cold and then for some reason, after you're so run down, you get a bacterial infection or something and you have to take antibiotics. So that's the secondary infection. So the first 7 vertebrae in her neck would have connected to her lungs and other parts of her respiratory systems, and they contained air sacs. The broccoli-shaped growths, or the lesions, protruded by about 1 centimeter from the vertebrae. She would have, when she had this illness, like everyone else, she would have been suffering from fever, laboured breathing, a cough, and would have had a runny snout. Poor thing. Can you imagine a dinosaur sneeze?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it'll be so loud.
Not the snout part, but I can relate to everything else you
said.
said.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Scientists aren't exactly sure what caused the illness, but it could have been bacterial or viral or fungal, and it's thought that the environment at that time would have been quite humid, so it could have been quite easy to catch something. There would have been, a bit of mold or fungi in the air or some bacteria happily living, and, viruses have been around for a bazillion years as well.
Yeah. So when you said fungi, I was waiting for Lino to crack a mushroom joke.
No, I'm not going to say anything like that.
Thank you.
I wanted to acknowledge that we were thinking that.
They're not sure if Dolly died from the illness, but they know that she had the chronic infection from her fossilized vertebrae. I'll just read you a little bit from this article because it's pretty it's a good explanation. So Carrie Woodruff, a paleontologist at the Great Plains Dinosaur Museum in Montana, had seen other anomalies in sauropod vertebrae before, but had never seen anything like this. She took to social media to ask other colleagues about the abnormal growths and got immediate responses from other avian and reptile experts who compared the marks to an illness seen in reptiles and birds alive today called air sacculitis, which describes inflammation in the air sacs caused by viruses or bacteria. From CT scans and comparison to other diseased animal bones, the researchers suspect air sacculitis was a respiratory response to bacterial or fungal infection like chlamydiosis and aspergillosis, which later caused an infection in the neck bones. These respiratory infections are seen in birds and reptiles today and can lead to bone infections. And also, another interesting fact, sauropods are more closely related to birds than other dinosaurs, and researchers suspect that they share similar anatomical traits like their complex respiratory systems. So that's pretty interesting.
Wow.
So, we know that birds most likely descended from the dinosaurs and, reptiles, so it's just amazing that we can see this kind of thing in dinosaurs and recognize it from today's, animals. The discovery of Dolly's lung condition isn't the first, but it's the oldest ever found in a non-avian dinosaur. And it was outlined in a paper published in the journal Scientific Reports in February 10th this year. Previously, dinosaurs have discovered a fossil of T-Rex which became infected with a parasite and died, and they found that one in 2019. And they've also found a marine animal that lived about 245 million years ago that had tuberculosis. And
my goodness
so
me.
they're able to find
Whoa.
these amazing things. They've also found cancers and gouts and obviously injuries that
Wow.
dinosaurs have sustained, through fighting or falling or whatever. So isn't that amazing? Something that lived so long ago, we can actually do an investigation like a cold crime scene or something,
Yes,
and actually, actually decipher what illness they died from. So I just thought that was super interesting, and it was
I actually felt sorry for that dinosaur. I just wanted to
Yeah.
get them a lemon tea,
yeah,
Yeah.
I just it's something that you don't think about, honestly. Like, when you talk about dinosaurs and how they lived, what they ate, how big they got, how old
what
they
they possibly
lived.
looked like, and
What they
that's
look
right.
like, and did they have feathers or didn't they have feathers, or how big were their
Yeah.
teeth? You never really think,
Oh, the
did
poor
they ever get a
things.
cold?
Yeah, got a cold.
Poor
Yeah,
thing.
that's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
what
and
a
there was
flu,
no
but-
one really to look after them, to give them medicine or whatever. They just had to suffer through it, and they either lived or didn't. So
Yeah, and can I just point out, this segment is not viral marketing for Universal Studios for Jurassic World 3 Dominion. Just put that out there.
That's true. That's true. Wow,
Yeah.
Caroline, I can't believe all those went flu and not flu. Sorry, I keep on saying that, cold and everything. Way
well, they
back
could
in
have
those
had flus.
days.
I mean, they're not sure if what it
Yeah,
came from.
Poor
so.
things.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like,
Or dinosaurs. I
we-
know.
well, we worry about our pets here. Well, of course we do. Of course we do. And then you think, yeah, having a dinosaur. Hey, a dinosaur, and all of the sneezes on you. Oh my goodness, man, they'll be so big. But the poor things, yeah.
That scene from the original, speaking of Jurassic Park,
yes.
and this is not viral marketing,
Yes.
but the Brachiosaurus, where it sneezes on the kid. Remember
That's
that?
right.
Yeah.
I was
Wow.
trying to
Yeah.
remember. I did see
Yeah.
that,
That's
and I was trying to
correct.
remember
Yeah.
where I saw that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, Caroline, I'll have a go now. There's another article that we thought we'd share.
Yeah, I'm interested in this one
right.
actually.
So I'll do the short version of this because it's pretty technical as well. Moving to outer space now, I found this great article on space.com. Could we really build Star Trek's USS Enterprise? Just how close are scientists to building, a Constitution-class starship? So let's have a look at this. First of all, it was launched from the mind of Gene Roddenberry in the 1960s, and it was the familiar ship that we all knew and loved from Star Trek, the original series, and right through the movies, and right through all these different iterations of Star Trek. So the ship in Star Trek is called a Constitution class. We're going with the original series one as our standard here, right?
Okay. So,
And,
okay.
and it was launched in the year 22:45 in Star Trek, not in our time, right? So
Well,
that is,
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if it would take that long to build it, wouldn't it, Linz? No.
yeah. Well, I don't know. Who knows? The problem is I wasn't there, so yeah. So in this timeline, so we're not going with the Kelvin universe for all the nerds out there, all right? Sorry, for all the fans, I should say. So it was built in space as opposed to the Kelvin universe one, which is built on land. So that's just J.J. Abrams' brain. Don't worry about that. But it was built in space. And it was a feat of fictional engineering. It's estimated that it would weigh around something over 4 million tons. It would house a crew of about 430 people. And in comparison, the heaviest man-made object to venture into space is the International Space Station, which is 419 tons. So nothing really. So it says here, however, China is reportedly researching the possibility of constructing a colossal spacecraft that measures up to 0.96 kilometers in length. Whereas the International Space Station is only 110 meters long. So if China did this, it would be something massive. Yeah. So engineers still have 233 years, according to this article, to make the USS Enterprise a reality. So we've got a bit of time, but I'd just say don't leave it to the last minute. All right. So just yeah. If we want to make something that's a bit Enterprise-like. So the main role of this ship was to explore strange new worlds. We know the
And we
go
boldly
yeah,
go where
to boldly go where no one has
No
gone
man's gone before.
Go on diplomatic missions and so on. But to assist in their journey, the Enterprise was equipped with an array of advanced sensors and scanners. So before, for example, going to a foreign planet, beaming down to a new world, the crew first of all flipped a few switches, as it says here, and scans the planet for life signs and pathogens, and to find out if if the atmosphere was correct. Is it M class? All that kind of stuff. Yep. Amazing how many M class planets they found, but yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
but
really,
I guess you need a story
that's
every
so
week,
true.
so fair enough. Yeah. So sensors are a pretty handy gadget to have. But they may seem unrealistic. However, scientists are one step closer to making this technology a reality. And Caroline, this is where you might need to chime in. All right, so here we go. Researchers have discovered that the biochemistry of all life forms interact with light in a way that inorganic or artificial materials don't. For example, when light hits a long chain of carbon molecules that make up amino acids, it becomes circulatory polarized. This means it travels in either clockwise or anti-clockwise spirals. So scientists could theoretically observe and identify this light interaction in the hopes of discovering new life forms from observatories of spacecraft, such as the Enterprise, or from future space-based telescopes, such as the Large UV Optical Infrared Surveyor, or LUVOIR as it's called. We might do an episode on that later on. One of the most other iconic abilities of the Enterprise is to travel at warp speed. And I think we've actually done a thing on warp drive before.
I was about to text you, poor Caroline, you did that warp theory.
Attempting to explain warp drive.
I don't think she wanted to go through that again, would she?
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
The basic way that they describe it here is that, first of all, we don't have anything that's anywhere near being able to replicate a warp drive. And the theory behind it, the research into it, started around the early 1990s. And considering that Star Trek started in the 1960s, it took them a while to get themselves into gear. But anyway, we'll forgive them for that. They've got a couple of hundred years, so they've started it. So to achieve a speed faster than light, physics natural speed limit, theoretical physicist Miguel Alcubierre, sorry about that, proposed that we might bend the fabric of space-time. And they said space-time can be imagined as a sheet of rubber on which all matter sits, creating dips in the rubber, like shapes relative to their mass. So he proposed that if space-time could be folded in front of a spaceship and then expanded behind it, the ship could travel much faster than the speed of light to achieve what we would call warp speed. So if you think of Star Wars, they travel at light speed, or at least that's what they call it. Warp speed is going beyond that speed. So incredibly, think of ludicrous speed from Spaceballs or something like that. Incredibly fast. So this bending of space-time would theoretically continue to move in a wave and act as a conveyor belt. So it's not that the ship is traveling so fast, it's that space is moving the objects really fast. So like it was on a conveyor belt. And so it would then be encased in what's called a warp bubble. And so a warp bubble in this case would be an amount of negative mass energy that would facilitate this warp drive. And it says it would be the equivalent mass of a massive star distributed in a ring around the spaceship. One of the limitations that we have, of course, is that we can't generate anything like that yet. So this hypothetical ring of negative mass energy would create this warp bubble, distort space-time, and transport any spacecraft within it. So it's like a bubble carrying it at these crazy speeds. One way to imagine that is the analogy they gave was, imagine you're standing, on a 747 while it's flying, and you don't get thrown to the back or the front, because the plane is moving. You're able to walk around while it's traveling at the same speed.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's kind of the theory behind that. There's some other theories here about using matter and antimatter to create that energy. However, the issue is we can't actually create enough antimatter yet. So the Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory, or Fermilab, which is much easier to say, can only produce enough antimatter in an hour to power 1/1000th of a watt, and would therefore need 100,000 Fermilabs to power a single light bulb. So we're not quite there just yet. Yeah. So, and also due to the fact that antimatter annihilates when it comes in contact with matter, storing it is near impossible right now, because everything is made of matter. So we have some issues there. So despite these quantum woes, research into antimatter spacecraft is still in development. One of the latest advancements in antimatter propulsion is NASA's proposal for a space probe that will travel all the way to our stellar neighborhood Proxima Centauri using an annihilation accelerator. But until scientists can successfully mass produce and store antimatter, powering a spacecraft that resembles the Enterprise is still firmly in the realm of imagination. So we're not quite there yet, guys, but they're thinking about it.
I think deep space travel is something that people want to do, but I think something more fun, like doing something more local as in our solar system. It's vast, but imagine like a scientific ship, say like the Enterprise, but it would be slower and something more achievable, and you could be doing scientific experiments as you travel from planet to planet. Say you do an exercise from going from Earth down to Pluto. Yes, Pluto's planet. And,
definitely.
Ooh,
yep.
And,
here we go. I heard about that.
Yes. And like, imagine if you could, like, this has sparked my imagination now, but say like you could go from planet to planet, and like you mentioned, using light and wavelengths and stuff to analyze the atmosphere, see if there's any organic chemical, chemistry and all that sort of thing. I reckon we could just like have these scientific ships going out, people doing the analysis using analyzers, because I've got an analyzer background in my job.
Yep.
So we measure emissions, in my job. So you could either say float down or send down probes that have these analyzers, and you could be analyzing in real time. You could be using spectrometers from the ship, to see what kind of molecules are around and all of that kind of thing, and doing that kind of analysis. And then you could be shooting down little probes that land on the planet, depending on what planet it is and if it has a surface. And I mean, maybe we could do interplanetary travel rather than deep space, and maybe from there we could learn more about travel in space, and then develop these engines.
They're the necessary first steps before thinking about interstellar travel, aren't they? Our solar system.
That's it. I mean, they are going to the moon and to Mars, but I reckon if you have long missions like that, you could learn so much. I think it would be so interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people put their hands up, and be like, yes, I want to do this.
Yeah, a lot of people.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, it's small steps, isn't it? Yeah, start small steps, then work on and do the experiments like you said, Caroline, and then work from that. And go. Then we could go to deep space, but start small. Of course, from here to the moon and whoever we can go to.
But it is fun to think about. Can we get to places in deep space really fast? But you've got to be able to get back. That's the other thing.
That's the other thing. Yeah, of course. It's got to be a two-way trip. It can't be one way.
Well, that's right. There's one thing we need to. You talk about Star Trek is teleportation. That's a totally different thing.
That's a whole other thing.
Willy Wonka, he did it. Chocolate bar. Yeah.
Exactly. We
moved,
need
put
that.
the little boy in the thing, and then he came even a little
Definitely.
smaller boy. You know,
We
just
need to just,
stretched him out after.
You should hear Jimmy Akin talking about transporters in Secrets of Star Trek and the
Oh, I
idea
have
that
to watch that.
because basically because a transporter essentially deconstructs your body,
Yes.
converts it to a signal, and then reconstructs it again. So in a sense, what he likens it to, it kills you.
Yes.
You know, converts you to a signal, and then it clones you a copy of you and puts everything back in again.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. If it
Yeah,
kills
makes
you, I'm not
sense.
sure you'd be alive again on the other
Yeah.
side.
Oh, yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say.
Yeah. So fun stuff.
Oh, we
All
would be
right.
quicker to get to work. Come on, guys. You know,
I
instead
would
of
love to
waking up-
teleport to work.
Waking
Yeah.
up an hour early. Why not? No. Let's just get to work. Give us a few seconds to get to work. There
We
you go.
could work anywhere on the planet then, couldn't you? You wouldn't have to.
You definitely would. You
Well,
definitely
Star
would.
Trek, this is one cool thing that Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Discovery, they've got different versions. So in Star Trek, in a recent episode of Star Trek Picard, it's not a spoiler, they're at Starfleet Academy and there's like this like loop, like an oval thing, like person size. You walk through it and it teleports you to wherever you're going. And then Star Trek Discovery, their comm badges are transporters now.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
so they just tap it,
Wow.
and tap it and go wherever they need to go. Like really
Tap
cool.
and
was
go.
it. Yes.
That's
Tap
the
and go.
Tap
There
and
you
go.
go.
It's a new kind of tap and go.
I like
yeah.
that.
Let's Science is brought to you by StarQuest Media and is a fortnightly podcast that brings you the scientific wonders of our universe from a distinctly Catholic point of view. For more from Caroline, Lindsay, and friends, listen to the StarQuest show, Catholics of Oz. Find links from today's show at sqpn.com/science and find the Catholics of Oz at sqpn.com/Oz. Be sure to follow the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you can find podcasts, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. The generous donations of our patrons at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Let's Science and all the shows at StarQuest, which makes our nonprofit mission possible. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Join us next time for more scientific wonders, and thank you for listening to Let's Science on StarQuest.